All right.
Hello and welcome to the first unofficial podcast of Mouse Madness. My name is Nicholas. You may refer to me as Nick or Irish Husky. I'm joined here today by a special guest, a good friend of mine. Say hello.
Hi, I am Wesley Hunt, alias Dr. W, Doctor of W with hyphens on DeviantArt, but just Wes will do for podcasting purposes.
Wonderful. All right, so we're going to start off by giving a bit of a rundown on exactly what Mouse Madness is. So, as I'm sure you all know, the COVID-19 pandemic is still underway, and this meant that a lot of local and national events had to be postponed indefinitely or canceled entirely. And unfortunately, one of these events was the NCAA men's basketball tournament, aka March Madness. Now, this left me kind of disappointed and kind of feeling empty inside because I like March Madness a lot. Even though I'm not really into college basketball, March Madness is one of the things I look forward to every year. And I figured, since March Madness isn't actually happening, I figured I might as well do something to fill in the void. Now, recently I've been getting into Disney movies, and I was talking with a coworker of mine talking about how there's 58 Disney movies that I want to get through. He told me that that's just shy of 64, which would have been perfect for a March Madness-style bracket round tournament. I took those words to heart and just decided, screw it, I don't care if I'm 6 short. I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a bracket-style tournament in the style of March Madness. And since this is about Disney films, I decided to call it Mouse Madness. Because I'm clever like that.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of jealous of you because I wanted to start my own poll version of this, running some knowledge I picked up of statistics on the Acclaim Music Forum. I would use a similar formula that they use to rank their song, artist, and album polls, but it would be a lot of trouble just to ask people to post their whole list, and there was no guarantee everyone would have seen them all. So I kind of like your idea better because it doesn't carry as much weight and people can vote for the matchups they recognize.
Yeah, that's the thing about this poll. It is a poll for the people. I'm trying to reach out and get as many people involved in this as I can. Since the project is fairly young, I'm not expecting a super high turnout. That being said, this past week, I actually did the first set of matchups, and the turnout I got was actually quite a bit higher than I was expecting. So before we get into all of that, I'm going to go through my methodology of how I set all of this up. So March Madness has a specific way that they match the teams up. It's based on seeds from 1 to 16 in one of 4 divisions. A 1 seed will face the 16 seed, 2 seed will face 15, and so on. The winner of each matchup will move on to the next round and face the winners of other matchups. This continues until there's 1 team left standing in each division. They go on to the competition for the Final 4 teams, cleverly called the Final 4. And they face off to determine who's truly the best team in basketball that year. Or more accurately, who's on their A game at that specific time. So Mouse Madness.
If you lose 1 game, you're out. So if you're off your game, yeah.
Right. You cannot afford to be off of your game. I'm looking at you, 2018 Virginia team. You ruined a lot of people's brackets that year.
Mine included.
Yeah, I actually had them going up in the Final 4. I think I had Villanova winning the whole thing, though.
Yeah, but anyway, how did you seed the teams?
So the way that I seeded the teams, in this case Disney movies, was a combination of their IMDb scores and their Metacritic scores. I figured this was a good way to get a good idea of how the critical consensus and the audience consensus come together. Now, I essentially what I did was just take the average of their scores on all of these movies and rank them based on the average. I had to scale IMDb to be up to 100 so that I wouldn't have to do any more fancy mathematics to come up to a reasonable number.
Yeah, but IMDb is easy, just multiply by 10.
Exactly. Base 10. Love it. So, the one exception to this was actually the first Winnie the Pooh movie, which did not have a Metacritic score, so I just took its IMDb score and multiplied it by 10. That's how I determined its seed. Now, since there are 4 divisions, I decided that going down the list from highest rated to lowest rated, every set of 4 would get the same seed, but in a different division. So, for example, the first 4 films that got ranked were Beauty and the Beast, Fantasia, Pinocchio, and The Lion King.
About what you'd expect from anyone saying their favorite Disney films.
Pretty much. I mean, looking at the top 10, literally all of the top 10 consists of either classic early Disney or Disney Renaissance. So Disney's first 5 films, then Cinderella, which is the first film after their rough period in the 40s, and then 4 of the Renaissance films.
Right.
So there's definitely going to be some kind of bias there, which may not be totally reflected in the way that people vote, but all that means is that there might be some upsets along the way. And really, isn't that the fun of March Madness?
Of course it is.
So I decided to set up the bracket matchups as accurately to March Madness as I could. So, like, for example, in the second round, one of the matchups is the winner of the 1-16 matchup and the winner of the 8-9 matchup. I had to physically look that up because I don't know it off the top of my head. But I'd made it as accurate as I possibly could. I put all of these brackets in a Google Sheet, which I actually made public on my DeviantArt, although since it's not currently pinned, it might get lost to new posts. Regardless, I can link to that. I can provide the link to that so that you can see how the brackets are laid out. I had to put separate tabs for each of the 4 divisions because if I tried to do it all in one tab, it would be way too big to navigate efficiently unless you zoom out really far, at which point the text becomes way too small to read.
Right.
Okay, so with that being said, let's actually get into the first set of matchups. So what I decided to do is do 4 matchups in the first round for every week. Since there are theoretically 64 teams, that comes out to 32 matchups for a total of 8 weeks for the first round. I'm mostly doing this for my convenience. I figure it's a good way to have plenty of time to actually watch all of these movies because I don't just want to be a spectator here. I want to actually participate in this discussion. There's no sense discussing a movie if you haven't seen it.
Cinephalsity, that's called, where you say you've seen a movie but no you haven't. I myself have been guilty of that, but since I have actually seen all of the Disney movies, I'm at liberty to discuss them here.
That is fantastic. And I know you've already given your basic thoughts on the first round matchups on my DeviantArt page, so I have an idea of how this discussion is going to go. Regardless, we can go more in depth since we're not bound by any limitations. So with that said, let's get into the first set of matchups. So the first round consists of 4 matchups in Class A. The first matchup is the 1 seed against the 16 seed. In this case, Beauty and the Beast versus nothing. The classes either have 14 or 15 films, so there is no 16 seed. I actually had to give the 6 highest rated films buys since we're 6 short of 64. So Beauty and the Beast automatically goes on to the second round. And full disclosure, I still haven't actually seen that one. I want to wait until it's time to actually vote on it so that my thoughts are fresh. So I won't actually be watching Beauty and the Beast until a later time, possibly when it's being matched up against the winner of the next matchup. Speaking of the next matchup, the 8 seed versus the 9 seed. Our 8 seed was The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, the final package film for Disney to save money during World War II. And the 9 seed, The Emperor's New Groove, a film that's seen a massive resurgence in popularity over the past decade because, let's face it, that movie is a meme machine.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about these movies. I'll give you the floor.
This matchup was kind of intriguing to me because these are both films that are going through a bit of a reevaluation, and I considered Ichabod to be underrated. This is usually considered to be the only package film that matters, at least for the Sleepy Hollow part. You have Bing Crosby doing the narration, and he's reading the story out loud in the voice that's meant to be heard. And fun side fact, the Headless Horseman is the only Disney villain to win. He gets away with everything.
You don't say.
And there is, of course, the Wind in the Willows segment. While I kind of thought it was funny, it's not quite as memorable or as dramatic as Sleepy Hollow. It takes the story, which I have actually read, mind you, and it cuts down on a lot of the fat and just leaves it to the Toad selling off his estate for a motor car. And they have the rat, the mole, the badger. Not the otter, though. They cut him out, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I actually haven't read the original Wind in the Willows, so everything I know about this story comes from watching this movie. And the one question I had coming out of it is, what exactly was I supposed to take away from this? I thought this was going to be a story about, Mr. Toad learning to rein in his more outlandish impulses, but he doesn't. He just gets even more outlandish by stealing a plane at the end. It was kind of the book, too, that they thought that Toad would rein it in a little. This was a story that a guy wrote for his kid in the early 1900s, and it kind of is not as nuanced as it probably could have been. And also, fun side note, every character in this story is a dude. The one girl in the Wind in the Willows book was replaced by the horse in drag. Really?
Yep, the scene where they make their escape, they just had the horse come back.
Wow. Yeah, so turns out I actually have seen the Sleepy Hollow segment. Way back when I was in middle school, we did a creative writing assignment where we kind of had to write our own version of the ending, like what actually happened to Ichabod Crane after he crossed the bridge.
Right. I saw this when I was in elementary school. It was for Halloween, and we discussed the story and the ideas because I think we were covering colonial literature then. And my mom told me that it might have just been Brom Bones pulling a stunt.
Yeah, that's always what I figured was going on. Because at the very least, it makes sense from a narrative standpoint, because otherwise you've got like 20 minutes of Crane and Brom Bones fighting over this girl, and then they just kind of abandon that for the Headless Horseman. Yeah.
But still, the final chase scene is pretty incredible, and it's interesting how they were able to pull this off on a budget shortfall.
Yeah, I'll give it that. So yeah, overall, I thought the movie was Thought the movie was all right. Definitely preferred Ichabod's story to Mr. Toad's. Something I find odd though is that the first story they tell is Wind in the Willows, which is Mr. Toad's. Yet he's given second billing in the film's title.
I thought that was weird too. It should be Mr. Toad and Ichabod.
Maybe it just doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah,
if that's the case, why not just switch the movies around?
Yeah, I saw on the DVD cover that they have Mr. Toad and Ichabod walking along down the street. Unfortunately, no such scene happens in the movie, as awesome as that would have been.
And how cool would it have been if they somehow found a way to transition between the stories, within the animated world, not having to cut back to the library.
Right.
I mean, I guess it does let the audience know that these are two entirely separate stories, but man, imagine that crossover episode.
Yeah.
It turns out the Headless Horseman was just Mr. Toad up to one of his antics again.
Yeah.
Okay, so Emperor's New Groove.
Pull the lever, Kronk!
Wrong lever!
Every time I'm on a water slide, I'd say that.
Yeah. One time, I was at an amusement park, and they had one of those giant chair lifts that they just drop from 150 feet.
Oh yeah.
I actually called it out, pull the lever, Kronk, and it actually fell. I really wish more people had heard that, because that is never going to happen to me again with my luck.
Right. But yeah, that's the thing about this movie, is it's infinitely quotable. Stuff like, I did not like your spinach pups. Or, about to go over a waterfall?
Yep.
Spikes at the bottom?
Most likely.
Bring it on.
Yes. Cusco's poison. The poison for Cusco. The poison specifically chosen to kill Cusco. Cusco's poison.
Yeah.
When you're trying to fill in the word requirement on your essay.
Exactly. But yes, this is probably the best straight out comedy that Disney made.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be straight up with you. Of all the films that I've seen in the past 2 weeks, this one's probably my favorite, just because of how funny it is.
Yeah, I can see why Disney had gone more for the melodrama, but this was probably the best time they tried to go for the comedy, the funny side.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to figure out what else to say about this movie. It's just funny. It's funny moment after funny moment. It's really fast paced, yet somehow simple enough to follow. I like how they point out their own inconsistencies. How'd you get back here so fast? How did we, Kronk? It's me. By all accounts, this does not make sense.
But there's also about the making of documentary about how the production team kind of got screwed over.
Really?
You know the story of Kingdom of the Sun?
I actually don't.
Well, they were going to make it a more serious, dramatic film, kind of like The Lion King, but then there was something about transition of power at Disney or something. I'd have to rewatch the doc for full details. But whatever the case may be, they scrapped Kingdom of the Sun. Sting was going to do the soundtrack. I think some of his songs are still available.
Huh.
And it got reworked and retooled into Emperor's New Groove. As easy it can be to try and miss Kingdom of the Sun, the movie we got was still fine, so I'm pretty glad.
Yeah. So this one pretty easily gets my vote for the matchup.
Yeah, I picked it too. It was just hilarious.
Yeah. So I actually have the straw polls pulled up right now. And the result of this matchup...
Drum roll!
Emperor's New Groove, 15 votes. Ichabod and Mr. Toad, 0 votes.
Wow, curb stomp.
Can't really say I'm that surprised.
Nah.
I mean, you had said that Ichabod and Mr. Toad was kind of getting a reevaluation. I haven't seen that nearly as much as I have for Emperor's New Groove, so this result does not surprise me in the slightest.
Right, Emperor's New Groove really had that big push. It didn't tank per se when it came out in the year 2000, but it only started to really grow in popularity with the meme age.
True. All right, so let's move on to the third matchup in this set. We've got the 5 seed, Big Hero 6, and Fun and Fancy Free as the 12 seed. So, yeah. Big Hero 6. Haven't seen the first 5, so it was kind of hard to follow.
It's called that because they're a superhero team of 6 members.
Yeah, I figured as much.
Right.
And also because the main character's name sounds like hero.
Yeah. Overall, I thought this one was just kind of okay. It didn't have the same emotional grip for me. It was just kind of a nice, by-the-numbers superhero movie. It wasn't bad. It's just not something I would see myself revisiting too often. I liked a lot of the designs, but also I should say this is based on a comic. It's an obscure Marvel comic, hence the Stan Lee cameo at the end. Spoilers, by the way.
I actually stopped watching at the credits. I didn't realize there was more.
End credits scene.
Yeah, I mean it's a 2010 superhero film. I should have known better to leave before the credits.
From a comic based on Marvel, so...
Yeah, I actually did not know that, so the Stan Lee cameo makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
I did like Big Hero 6. I thought it was good. I definitely thought the first half was a lot better before the villain reveal.
I agree.
I mean, like, they're building up Cray to be, you know, the big villain, and, you know, just the way that Disney's been going in the new 10s, you know he's not going to be the villain. You know it's going to be someone else. Probably the Professor.
Yeah, I kind of do think the idea of having a twist villain can work. I think Disney did a pretty good job with it. Well, not really Disney, but Pixar did it with Toy Story 2. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if they wanted to have a good twist villain, they'd sow the seeds, have little tiny clues like any other mystery, so you could figure it out and be surprised while also having it kind of make sense.
Right. Like, the thing about a twist villain is that if you rewatch the film knowing what's coming, it really shouldn't change, you know, your perception. Or if it does change it, it's in a way like, oh yeah, this makes sense in hindsight.
Yeah, big aha moment.
Yeah, but I don't see a whole lot of that in Big Hero 6. All I really got was, you know, Callahan and Cray have an obvious rival.
Cute.
He was. Big marshmallow man.
Yeah.
You cannot offend me. I am a robot. Yeah.
That's what for a tagline.
I mean, that's a big part of why I did like it. Baymax, like, he's cute. He's really funny. Like, he was easily the highlight of this movie.
Same.
Yeah, but you know they have him have this big dramatic death in the climax. Ends up coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, in a bit of an unorthodox way, I guess. I mean, technically his heart is still alive, so. But
yeah, so he never really died in the first place. His body just shed like a snake.
Yes. Okay, so Fun and Fancy Free.
This was the most negative I saw you in your evaluations.
Yeah, this is actually the first Disney movie. Like, I'll front with you. A lot of the early Disney movies are kind of hard for me to get into just because I feel like they drag a lot. I mean, maybe I've just been spoiled by modern cinema, but I prefer more fast pace.
I kind of sort of see that, but when we get to the older stuff, I'll explain more. But I feel like what old Disney was trying to do was he was trying to go for an experience, just to have appeal to emotion.
I do understand that, and that's why I can't be too hard on them. It's largely just a personal preference. I prefer my stories to be more straightforward.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but of all these movies, Fun and Fancy Free probably has one of the more interesting production histories. Told you about Emperor's New Groove, but
Yeah.
this was like the low point of the war era, so Disney had to economize. There were two ideas for a short, and they just decided, hey, why not both? And Bongo was made as sort of a sequel to Dumbo, or a movie set in the universe of Dumbo, and that kind of dovetailed off into its own thing. And then there was Mickey and the Beanstalk, which was meant to be another Mickey short, and it would also be the last time that Walt voiced Mickey.
Oh yeah.
Since he was a chain smoker, his problems with the lungs and larynx made it impossible to hit the high notes anymore.
So, like, just going off my general thoughts on this movie, it is just really boring. Especially the Bongo story.
Yeah, that part didn't move me. I actually grew up with Mickey and the Beanstalk on its own. I had the tape for that in isolation that had a new narrative story with the character of Ludwig von Drake. It wasn't until I was a little older that I realized it was a full movie. And I saw that.
Yeah, I didn't know anything going into this movie, so I was a bit surprised to see that this is where that meme where Mickey slices the bread so thin it's transparent. I've seen that in memes before. I had no idea it came from this.
Yeah, and Donald's meltdown at the beginning of the short, that's kind of a meme fodder right there.
Yeah. I mean,
they said it was his Christian Bale moment.
I'll say this. I mean, the Mickey and the Beanstalk segment, it had its moments that made me laugh. Some of the puppets commentary, Donald being Donald.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say if nothing else, just forget the movie, and if you're curious, watch the short on its own.
Yeah, Bongo, you can absolutely skip. This is not a drum that anyone should be beating along to.
Yep.
Okay. So anyway, here's
Let's
how...
see if the voters agreed.
All right. Big Hero 6, 12. Fun and Fancy Free, zippity-doo-dah.
Another shutout! Wow.
Another unanimous vote. And again, not at all surprised, especially after seeing it myself.
I think the matchups are going to get a bit harder and a bit closer the further we go on. This is to weed out some of the weaker entrants.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the first round. Sometimes you'll get surprises. That does not seem to be the case here.
Right.
So anyway, let's get on to our final matchup. The the 4 seed versus the 13 seed. These being Moana versus Oliver and Company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you saying you're not too big on either of these.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the minority with Moana. It just didn't really move me. We'd had a Polynesian one, we'd had some adventure ones, even Maui trying to talk about if you have a dress and an animal. We've had Princesses Defy the Stereotypes before, so... Yeah. Tamatoa, he was the only thing that got me to raise my eyebrows. He was the one thing that kind of got a reaction out of me.
I'm having trouble remembering names. Was he the giant crab?
Yeah, he was the David Bowie crab.
That was David Bowie?
No, it wasn't. He was dead. He was based on David Bowie, it looked like.
Oh yeah, this came out like the same year he died, didn't it?
Yeah, but a little bit of fun trivia for you. Apparently, this was the first movie ever to be dubbed into Tahitian.
Guess that makes sense. I guess they couldn't use an actual name, so they just came up with an island sound that sounds like Tahiti. Tefiti.
Well, yeah.
I did like Moana, like a little bit less than Big Hero 6, just because it wasn't quite as funny. I did like The Rock. I liked his song. I liked Moana's big song. I liked the first song. It made me feel like I was watching a stage musical, and when I found out that Lin-Manuel Miranda did the soundtrack for that, it all clicked.
Yep.
Like it sounds a lot like Once on This Island, which is an actual stage musical set in not in Polynesia but in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
But it has a lot of those same musical inflections, so I was actually surprised that Miranda didn't write the music for that either.
Yeah, I was also pleasantly surprised Moana didn't go for the last second twist.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of a twist in that they're not, like, defeating the villain in the traditional way, but that's about it. And it looks like we've got another visitor.
How are you doing? Say something.
Oh, am I good? Am I good?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. I forgot to plug the mic part of the headphones in.
Would you mind introducing yourself? We're live.
How's now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, great.
So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karakin Namnit. I go by Raccoon Bro on the internet, and I'm here to talk about some Disney movies.
Right. We're kind of at the end of our line right now, but we're doing Moana, huh?
Yeah, well, that's okay. Moana is the one that I probably care the most about.
Even more than
What are
Emperor's
your
New Groove?
thoughts on Moana?
Even more than which one?
Emperor's New Groove.
Don't get me wrong. I wish I could have talked about that one, but I'm cool with talking about Moana.
Yeah. Right. So, what are your thoughts?
Moana, I think, is a really great movie. It's one of those films that I can see why some would be a little bit bothered by some of the cliches, but I think what makes it stand out is the characters, Moana and Maui, because those two are some of the most, like, one of the most fun pairs that Disney has put out recently.
I like the tattoo. I thought the tattoo.
Yeah, that was some nice comic relief.
Any chance that Disney has to insert 2D animation into their 3D films is always a win for me. So that's another reason I think the tattoo is great. But
I'd say Moana and Maui are the best Disney duo since Nick and Judy from the other Disney movie from that year.
Yeah,
which we will discuss at a later time.
2016 was a good year for Disney duos, and
really
the best part was that both duos were male and female, and the filmmakers didn't see a need to have them like be romantically together at the end, which I think is a refreshing change of pace.
Yeah, that was.
So yeah, I liked Moana fine.
Wasn't as enthusiastic about it, but what was good was good.
Yeah. All right, so we got a good balance going on here. All right, and it's matchup film Oliver and Company. Full disclosure, I actually had no idea this was based on Oliver Twist.
I did. I saw this the same year my middle school did Oliver, and so I kind of knew about it. And also, a fun fact, this is Dom DeLuise's only Disney credit. Oh, yeah. He was working with Don Bluth a few movies prior, but he skimped out on Land Before Time to be Fagin in this movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I saw it once as a kid, and I have no memory of it, I'm afraid.
Here's all you need to know. Huey Lewis and Billy Joel have songs in this. Billy
Joel steals the show.
So I've heard. I've heard that that people really like the music in this one because it's a Billy Joel movie.
Yeah. This was kind of like a filler entrant for Disney. I say the Renaissance begins with Great Mouse Detective because that's the beginning of the Eisner era, and it was enough of a hit to keep the company going. But then you realize you've kind of got this more mediocre entrant between Mouse Detective and Little Mermaid, which both were hits for their time.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of how people kind of overlook Rescuers Down Under.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Not a whole lot to say about Oliver and Company.
The art style's pretty cool. It's got the thick outlines, kind of updated for the 80s, but otherwise, it's just kind of there.
Yeah, the opening scene absolutely does not match tonally with the song, because it's Huey Lewis's song with this somewhat intense scene with Oliver getting stranded.
Yeah, it's so heartbreaking to see them all passed up on that little kitten.
Yeah.
Is there... Now, I know that this is... it has to do with Oliver Twist, but is there some sort of, like, please, sir, I want some more, like, equivalent in the movie?
Not
really.
The kitty's begging to be adopted, but that's about as close as we get.
Yeah, and that's only, like, 1 minute in the first scene.
Interesting.
And Huey Lewis is singing over it all, so you can't even hear the line.
Huey Lewis walked so that Phil Collins could run.
Yeah.
I can't wait till we get to Tarzan.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking for it. Yeah, I hope I'm able to get in sooner.
And Raccoon Bro, want to hear the results for the first two matchups this week?
Yeah, sure, let's hear it.
Well, they were both unanimous, but Emperor's New Groove beat Ichabod 15-0, and Moana beat Fun and Fancy Free 13-0, I think.
12-0, but 0's still 0.
12-0, but still, both of them won by unanimous decision.
While I can't say I'm surprised, at the same time I am happy about that because they're fantastic.
I think we're all happy about that.
Yep.
I do hope I get a chance.
So far, this is playing about what I would expect.
Yeah, so before I reveal the results of this matchup, how did you guys vote?
I voted Moana, Big Hero 6, and Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah, kind of obvious how you voted on the first two matchups.
I voted Fun and Fancy Free and Oliver Twist. I was a secret, like, incognito. So not really. That doesn't really count, I guess.
So you did vote Oliver and Company then?
I voted for Moana.
Okay. All right.
And Big Hero. Big Hero.
All right. So drum roll. Okay, Moana got 11 votes. Oliver and Company got 2 votes. Not unanimous.
Wow!
Not unanimous. Interesting.
Compared to the other two, Oliver put up a fight.
I know.
Hey, got to the very end.
I guess people have a soft spot for cute animal stories. Can't say I blame them, but at the same time,
Billy Joel fans, I guess.
Yeah,
Probably.
It's a very New York movie, so probably got dip into that demographic, and Moana probably got literally everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay, so that does it for the first matchups. So in the second round, we'll have Beauty and the Beast facing off against the Emperor's New Groove.
That'll be interesting.
And the other round 2 matchup that we know of is going to be Big Hero 6 versus Moana.
All right. These matchups,
two new tens Disney films that were hits, more commercially than critically. So I legitimately have no idea how that one's going to turn out.
I'm very curious. Like, these seem like very, very fitting matchups for each other because Beauty and the Beast and Emperor's New Groove, it's like the 2D side of Disney, but like completely opposite spectrums of what they're capable of. Like they're more dramatic side and they're more comedic side.
Yeah, they both reinvented Disney in their own way.
So I'm definitely expecting Beauty and the Beast to win, but I'm expecting a lot of votes for Emperor's New Groove. I'm saying like a 60% chance for Beauty and the Beast. And as for Big Hero 6 and Moana, it could honestly go either way. I'm
holding my cards until next week, but yeah, I'm with you. It could go either way.
Okay, but these will not be the films that'll be judged next week because these are round 2 matchups, and we still have 7 sets of round 1 matchups to get through. So let's talk about those matchups. These are the films that'll be going up against each other in the coming week. Alright, so the first matchup, the 6 seed versus the 11 seed. We've got Wreck-It Ralph versus Melody Time.
Okay. I wonder who's going to win that one.
It's a mystery. Anyway, in the next matchup, we have the 3 seed versus the 14 seed, which is The Little Mermaid versus Saludos Amigos.
I need to rewatch Saludos Amigos.
Okay, next matchup, the 7 seed versus the 10 seed. I honestly cannot believe that this seed, the 7 seed, got rated so low. It's Mulan. And it's facing off against the Rescuers Down Under.
That's a tough one for me, honestly. I like both movies.
Should probably watch Rescue Us Down Under again. That's another film I watched as a kid one time. But, I don't have much collection other than Jot.
I have very, very vague memories of watching like the first 20 minutes of this movie. Just at some point when I was in like the 2nd grade.
I could lecture. This was one that I watched quite a bit as a kid. I could tell you a lot about it and how fun it is.
Did they get Men at Work to do the soundtrack?
Sadly, no.
No AC/DC either?
That would be awesome. I don't think there are any pop songs in it. I think it's all orchestral.
I can deal with that. So yeah, Mulan versus Rescuers Down Under. My prediction is Mulan, just because of its reputation, but I might be surprised. Anyway, the final matchup, the 2 seed versus the 15 seed. We have Snow White versus Nothing. This is another bye.
Oh, good for Snow White.
Yeah, so it's probably going to face off against Mulan in the 2nd round, unless Rescuers Down Under comes up from behind.
It's a movie. I actually watched that one very recently because I was curious about it. Snow White.
Which one did you watch recently?
I think it was Snow White.
I watched Snow White recently.
Yeah, that was the first one I watched when I started my Disney Plus subscription. Okay, that pretty much concludes this first discussion. Thank you both for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
No problem, Nick.
I will try my best to get here earlier next time, so that way I have more of a present conversation.
All right, so is this a weekly thing every Friday?
I plan on it, and since we've got more time to prepare, we can maybe set up a better time to get more people in.
All right, that sounds good
to me.
Yeah, so
make sure to watch the movies that we're going to talk about that I haven't seen yet to prepare.
And let me know if you need any help with anything podcast-wise.
I'll be sure to do that. All right, so I think at this point we should just talk about random stuff, and we can fade this out into the March Madness thing.
Right.